Hello, everybody. A very big good morning to all of you joining us today. Welcome to Open Source India and welcome to the keynote that we're going to deliver today about evolving enterprise apps with open source. Let me start sharing my screen and then get started with it. All right. I hope everybody can see my screen. Please do let me know if you can't. Before going ahead, let me just acknowledge the current global crisis that's happening outside us. I hope all of you and your near and dear ones are taking all the safe precautions to be able to fight the global COVID-19 pandemic. This is a testing time for the human spirit, and I hope we get all the courage to fight this out. My name is Shashank Srivatsvaya, and I help developers build better apps fast. I currently work at Salesforce as a director of developer relations for the Asia Pacific region, with a major focus on the India community. I'm also joined today by Aditya Nagtopalli, who is a lead developer evangelist from Salesforce from our team. And we're going to together talk about evolving enterprise apps with open source. Before we go in, let me just give you some information that since Salesforce is a publicly traded company, please don't make any buying decisions based on what I'm going to talk about today. If you'd like to make any buying decisions, please do your own research. So without further ado, let's get into the meat right away. Before that, I wanted to talk about what Salesforce does. Some of you might have heard about Salesforce. Some of you might know it well, but don't know what it does. So I just wanted to give a quick overview and set up context for the rest of our talk today. So Salesforce provides solutions and enables companies and businesses of all shapes and sizes to maintain relationships with their customers by providing a 360-degree view of the customers and the functionality needed using the Salesforce Customer 360 platform. Be it sales, service, marketing, commerce, and industry solutions, and employee experience solutions, even integration and analytics. You name it, anything that has to do with working with the customer, Salesforce provides that. Now, the Salesforce Customer 360 platform has been built heavily on top of open source. We leverage so much of open source, even right from the beginning. It has always been a big advocate of open source, but at the same time, we need to make sure our solutions are enterprise ready for our customers so that we can build relationships and maintain relationships with our customers as well, because trust is our number one value. And you might be wondering what enterprise ready means, right? Let's look at it as a set of capabilities that are needed in an enterprise software. Things like scalability, reliability, testability, supportability, accessibility, compatibility, and a few more which don't have the ability suffix like security, performance, future-proofing, internationalization. We all know the need for these kind of capabilities in enterprise software. But at the same time, open source provides so much innovation that it fuels developer productivity and business growth as well, right? So for a developer or an engineer, it's easier to build on and customize, and they get to leverage crowdsourced innovation that is coming from the whole open source community. And for the business, it's actually a wider talent pool to hire from and a happier talent pool to hire from. So it is a win-win for both software developers and business leaders. So, and also that is one of the major reasons why we embrace open source so much in the enterprise, so that we can also control the future, maintain dependencies, reduce technical debt, and also push the enterprise industry forward and evolve at the same time. This is so important, and this is also something that ties into the most important value at Salesforce, which is what we believe in. and that is business is the greatest platform of change. Be it things like public education, equal pay, equal rights. Business has the power to generate change. At the same time, even when you talk about open source, it has the ability to bring a change or improve the whole situation. And generally also because contributing to open source is just the right thing to do. And that is what we believe in. So I hope I was able to establish Salesforce's love for open source by now. We're going to spend the rest of our keynote talking about how Salesforce uses open source, contributes to and supports open source, and releases open source projects, and some of the projects that we have released today. So let's dive into this. Salesforce is a pretty extensive platform, and just like you might have guessed, there are so many things that go into building a platform like this. And we leverage open source in so many places. For example, for programming languages, we use Java, Node.js, JavaScript, Python, PHP, Ruby, all the open source things that you can think of, especially with the move towards a microservice-based architecture. And database technologies like MySQL, Postgres, Kafka, Redis, and even HBase, and other infrastructure and DevOps tools like, Kubernetes, Istio, Jenkins, Git, and so many other things. We use them pretty extensively at Salesforce already. And that is what enables us, to ensure that we are moving forward and also evolving at the same time. Here's a pro tip for anybody who wants to use open source, mainly for organizations who are thinking about using open source, but not yet thinking about open source. Try to rely on projects that are stable and that you can influence. This is one lesson that we've learned from our experience, so we wanted to share it with you. So coming to contributions, right? Let's talk a little bit about where we are contributing and at what level Salesforce is contributing to open source software. At a high level, I mentioned a few of them already, and we are also contributing majorly to some others like Terraform, Apache HBase, Kafka, Selenium, Visual Studio Code, and even IntelliJ. So these are things that are valuable to us, and we like to keep contributing. And and this is just only a small list from a list of like 7,000 other projects that we are contributing to. And we have 1,800 engineers who are individually contributing to these projects at Salesforce as of today. And if you are wondering how we are able to enable these kind of contributions, we have a few tips and tricks that we follow. For example, the first one is we encourage our engineers to think of contributing to open source as part of their job, right? You are an engineer who's using the technology. You also should feel like it's a part of the job to contribute and give back to the technology. The other thing that we do is the FOSS fund, Free and Open Source Software Fund, where an engineer can nominate an open source project of their choice, and other engineers could vote for it. And every quarter we announce a winner with the most votes, and we provide a $10,000 sponsorship for that project. And the most recent recipient of that sponsorship was ESLint. It is a linting tool for ECMAScript-based languages like JavaScript and TypeScript and stuff. We use it pretty extensively at Salesforce as well, by the way. And the other thing that we do is we actually provide additional leave for employees who want to voluntarily contribute more to open source projects, up to 56 hours per day. We have this concept called voluntary time off, PTO for short, at Salesforce, where you get to give back your time as an employee back to the community, and Salesforce honors it by providing you additional leave from work to be able to do that. So one pro tip for companies who want to encourage contributing, just make it a part of your engineer's job. and make them feel like it's a part of their job to contribute to open source. So that's that's a high level about contributions. Like you've seen, we can't do justice to the 7,000 projects that we are contributing to, or probably hundreds of them that we are very actively, very proactively contributing to. But let's move on and talk about some of the projects that we have released over the last few years. This is a high-level glimpse of some of the projects that we'd like to showcase and talk about, things like the open cloud-native build packs and open NLP frameworks and an open design system, an open CLI framework, and also our one of the most showcased projects, which is Lightning Web Components as well. So these contributions, these projects are kind of in three major categories, like artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and app development. In AI, we're going to talk today about AI Economist, Transmogrify, and Deca NLP. Artificial intelligence is, as you might be knowing, it is a direction in which our industry is moving forward. So we invest a lot of efforts into artificial intelligence, even research and open source projects. The second category is cloud computing. No prizes for guessing there, because Salesforce has been a pioneer of the cloud, knowingly or unknowingly from the beginning. And we'd like to highlight a couple of recent projects within cloud computing today. And the third category is app development. Now, it might come as a bit of a surprise for some of you, like what has Salesforce got to do with app development? We're going to address that in a section towards section later. But first, let's try to go into artificial intelligence. Pretty excited to talk about AI Economist. And AI Economist Foundation is a flexible economic simulation framework, which is AI based. It's actually the product of a collaborative research between the Salesforce Research and Harvard University. And you get a simulation like you see on the screen, but it's mainly where AI agents learn tax policies, and they optimize taxes for socioeconomic objectives, and improve the equality and productivity through tax policies. Right? Imagine like an AI running your economy from its learnings. And we also noticed that the AI Economist model actually performs 16% better than the other popular economic models that like the SAYS model and the free economy model, free market model. And it improves the trade-off between equality and productivity by 16%. This is something you should definitely check out. I think it's really cool and really amazing as a technology. And the other thing that I want to talk about is Transmogrify. Might not sound as cool as AI Economist, but it is a pretty cool project where it is an automated machine learning framework. It's an AutoML library which is built with Scala and runs on top of Apache Spark. It reduces drastically the amount of development efforts that go into building and maintaining and fine-tuning machine learning models. Things that might take like months for developers to do, Transmogrify does it in like a couple of days. So there's like 100x reduction in time when it comes to manual, with almost the same level of accuracy as human intervention. Let's try and talk about the other AI project that I'd like to talk about is Deca NLP, which is short for the natural language decathlon. It's a new benchmark for natural language processing models, and it actually tests the models in 10 different natural language tasks, and also tests for multitasking, like how can you do all 10 how well can you do all 10 popular natural language tasks. I don't want to showcase all the tasks right here. Be sure to check out Deca NLP. It's pretty cool, and it also provides like a leaderboard of all the other NLP models that have been, that have been benchmarked. So next time you wanna benchmark your NLP model or an NLP model that you want to try out or something, be sure to check this out. So moving on into some of the cloud computing projects like Cloudsplaining. Cloudsplaining actually identifies violations of least privilege in AWS identity and access management, and it provides like a HTML report with that. It is very important because for us to be able to use AWS as a public cloud, we also need to ensure the level of trust that customers have been, building with us. So we found a real need for a tool like this. At the same time, we're also putting it out in the open by open sourcing it. The other one I want to talk about is Sloop, which provides a visualization for debugging past events, and it visualizes a history of events for Kubernetes, which is something I really wanted to show and talk about. I think it's pretty damn cool. So we spoke about AI, we spoke about cloud computing. Let's now get into the application development category of projects. Many of you might know Salesforce as a software service provider, but it's not just that. Salesforce is also a platform as a service provider, and actually a major one at it. Salesforce provides extreme level of customization for its users. And in fact, it provides so much customization that a developer can build a full-fledged, large-scale enterprise application that has nothing to do with customer relationship management in a matter of days, right? So, this is an immense power put in the hands of developers. And this power created a whole ecosystem of developers and partners who are either implementing Salesforce for customers the way they want it, or even building apps to distribute on an app store-like platform that Salesforce provides called the Salesforce App Exchange. So to provide this level of customization, we also need to invest a lot in the technologies, and we did that. We did a lot of that, and we are open sourcing any things that we felt will be useful for the community, and also leverage the power of the crowdsourcing innovation from the open source community. We want to spend the rest of the presentation talking about this, but I'd like to bring in the perspective of a developer from the ecosystem. Right, so let me hand this over to Aditya, who's a lead developer evangelist. He was a developer in the Salesforce ecosystem before this, to take over from here and walk you through the projects and provide you more context on these projects for developers. Over to you, Aditya.
So, like I was introduced multiple times before, my name is Aditya. I'm a lead developer evangelist, and I've been working on the Salesforce platform for about 7 years now. And to be very frank, that's the only thing I've worked on since I started my career. So it's actually good to see how Salesforce has evolved over the past years, and the way I get to interact more with open source than proprietary technology. So I'm going to cover some of it today. So in case you have any questions, please make sure to post them in the questions panel, wherever you see that on the screen, and we'll answer that towards the end of the session, or you can actually come and join us in our booth to get your questions answered. So moving on, I'm going to talk a little bit about the projects that we have open sourced related to app development. So we'll go in the reverse order of the software development lifecycle, where I'll first start with what we are doing in the deploy phase and then move towards the development phase. So in case of deployment, we have this thing called Cloud Native Build Packs, which is a project which was initially conceptualized by Heroku and Pivotal. And since then, we had multiple contributions from many companies, including Google, Microsoft. So like the name suggests, Cloud Native Build Packs offers you a cloud native way to transform your source code into Docker images that then you can use to run on any other cloud that you want. So it offers some benefits as well. I mean, it has features built into it like, let's say, advanced caching, rebasing, or even multi-language support. So depending on what source code you give, it's going to download and build the necessary dependencies. For example, for Java, it's going to download and use JVM. For Node, it's automatically going to identify and download all the dependencies. So it takes care of almost everything that you can think of. You can check out more information at buildpacks.io. I mean, this is a keynote. I can't cover more of it, but do check out the website. Now, the next one, moving more closer to the development, is the OClif framework, or it expands actually to the OpenCLI framework. And the naming is pretty intuitive. So basically, OClif is an open framework using which you can build CLI tools in minutes. So what OClif does is really it provides a scaffolding tool, which actually creates a scaffolded project for you with all the dependencies and everything that you need to create a CLI. And all of this is using Node.js. So you essentially write Node.js code and you write it using TypeScript. And then you build the project, and then that's it. A command gets created for you. And you can also extend it with any plugins you can think of. I mean, in the end, it's a Node.js project. So any plugins that you want to use, you can do that. And OClif is being extensively used by Salesforce and Heroku. So we've built our Heroku and Salesforce CLIs on top of OClif. And not just that, but companies like Twilio and Comoji have been using OClif for their command line tools. So since Salesforce is a pretty vibrant ecosystem, it has a lot of developers, millions of developers, including Heroku. The CLI tool that we have built on OClif is able to scale and handle millions and millions of interactions every single day. So you know that it is trustworthy. So do check it out at oclif.io. I actually have a very small demo that I want to show you for OClif on how simple it is. So here is my project structure. So there is a scaffolding tool that I spoke about. You use that and run a basic command, and then this entire project gets created for you. Like you see, it is a Node.js project, and in the SRC, you have a bunch of commands that you can create. Now, in this case, the scenario for this example is that I have created a command which is going to fetch all the people who have starred a particular repo on GitHub. So for that, you can see I have created a command called stars. It is essentially, like you can see, all standard JavaScript, ECMAScript imports, ECMAScript classes, and all of it. And here there is a simple get that we are doing to the API endpoint. So once I build this project, I can run it locally to test the output. So I just do a .bin/run. But once you push this to, let's say, the NPM registry and download it from there, you can actually use the command name that it shows. So when you run the help command, so most of the commands contain the help attribute that you can pass. So you can see it shows the version, it shows the usage. So essentially, this is the name of my command. So once I download it from the NPM registry, I can just use OClif example. I mean, I can name it anything that I want, but here it is just an example, so it's this way. And the commands are automatically shown to you. And what you can observe here is the description and all of it is actually pulled in directly from this class. So the moment you build this Node.js project, the OClif takes care of creating all of these help commands, making sure whatever commands we exposed are listed out here along with their descriptions. So all of it happens with just one build command. So that's pretty cool. Now let us run the star command. So it's again .bin/run, and the stars is a command, and then I need to pass the parameter, that is what is the repo for which I want to get the stars for. And then once I run this command, it will make a call out, and you can see the list of people who have starred my repo. So this is a very, very small demo just to show you the power of Oakleaf and how easily you can create command line tools using Node.js and TypeScript. Again, like I mentioned, do check out oakleaf.io. And the reason Oakleaf, I spent some time on Oakleaf is that, like I said, it is the basis for our Salesforce CLI. And the advantage that we as an enterprise got by open sourcing Oakleaf and the Salesforce CLI built on top of it is that when our millions and millions of developers are using Salesforce CLI, if they face any issues, they can fix it right then and there. They submit PRs to our repo, we just accept them and it's done. And some developers actually extend Salesforce CLI using their own plugins. They contribute to Salesforce CLI. So there is a lot of innovation coming in from the community to the product that we have built. And that is how we as an enterprise are evolving, not by making our code to be a proprietary walled thing, but open sourcing it so that it evolves even faster than what it would if only we were the contributors. So that is one important thing. So moving on to the development. So the other end of the development lifecycle, the actual development that happens. So today I'm going to talk more about UI development within that space. And what we have is a new JavaScript framework. And we call that Lightning Web Components. And this is a framework that is entirely based on modern web standards. So as you can see in the slide, there is this orange box that lists all the web standards that have evolved over the past 5 years. So even without any framework, the browser is able to understand web components, Shadow DOM, decorators, modules, ECMAScript 7. So all of these are standards that have evolved over the past 5 years, and the Lightning Web Components framework is built on top of it. It's actually a pretty lean framework. The runtime is just 7 KB. So that's how lean it is. And you can use this framework to build apps that deliver blazing fast performance. Now, the reason it is blazing fast is because the framework is lean and most of it is standards based. So the browser itself is able to understand everything that you write without having to be compiled down. So the time to compile, the time to understand the complex JavaScript is reduced. So the standards are directly executed on the browser. So it's super fast. And of course, it is again completely open sourced, which means you can contribute, you can drive our roadmap by contributing to it. And the best part is the apps that you build with Lightning Web Components framework can be deployed literally anywhere. So the logos listed on the slide are just a few. But anywhere, I mean, GitHub pages, you think of any place that can run web applications, you can run Lightning Web Components on it. So the architects who build Lightning Web Components have a very interesting message. They say their goal is for LWC to eventually disappear. So we call it the disappearing framework because what the framework does right now is built on top of web standards, like I told you, but it does some amount of polyfills so that your code runs on older browsers like IE11 and stuff. I think it's good that Microsoft is discontinuing IE11. That is what I heard recently though. So that is what our plan is. As web components evolve, the work the framework does is going to reduce. So the framework is going to become thinner. And you should know that Salesforce is a part of TC39 and W3C. Those are the standard organizations. And if you remember from the initial slides, one of our goals is to push the industry forward. And being a part of both of these standard organizations, we are actually driving them to push more web standards. In a way, we are pushing the entire web industry forward by influencing their roadmap, by contributing to web standards. Now, when building apps with Lightning Web Components, it itself is an open source framework, but the way you build it, also you can leverage the wider open source community. So like for building, you can use Webpack, Rollup, you can use TypeScript to build it. For testing, you can use Jest, Jasmine, any framework that you can think of. And our most recent contribution is in the accessibility space, where we have built on top of Axie framework to build our own abstraction on it called Sally that can be used to test for accessibility on all of the apps that we build. Quality deployment, again, I've already covered that. You can literally use any open source tool that you want and literally deploy it anywhere. So that is that. And like I mentioned, you can use LWC anywhere. So what is it that you can build using Lightning Web Components? So you can build web pages, static web pages, dynamic web pages. And because you're actually building web components, the framework itself is Lightning Web Components. So you can build reusable web components and then push it to the NPM registry. Others can use your web components, all of that fancy stuff. You can also build single page applications. You can build PWAs, progressive web applications. And you can also build desktop and mobile apps in collaboration with, using other open source tools like Electron or Cordova. So you can use them and build desktop and mobile apps. So pretty much everywhere you can use LWC. So what have we as Salesforce done with this framework? So the entire Salesforce CRM, so the world #1 CRM, we have entirely migrated it to use Lightning Web Components. So millions and millions of users, like all the customers that we have, are using Lightning Web Components without them even knowing it, of course. But they are super happy with the improvement in performance, and they really love the new Lightning Web Components framework. And not just that, but all our websites also, we are revamping it to use Lightning Web Components. So the major effort right now is going to migrate the Salesforce developer website to use Lightning Web Components. The community, the vibrant Salesforce community that we have, they have done something fun. They've started actually building games using Lightning Web Components. They've built chess, Snake, tic-tac-toe. Pretty basic games, but yeah, still games. So what's more interesting about this is we are doing a workshop tomorrow at 11 a.m. and feel free to join us, where we are actually going to build a game using Lightning Web Components. So in a way, you learn about Lightning Web Components and then you have fun with it by building a game and then hosting it on any platform that you want. So workshop tomorrow at 11 a.m. to build a game. Now, we love Lightning Web Components. I spoke about it for 5 minutes, so you should know we love Lightning Web Components. And we launched it in January 2019, and we have open sourced it in May 2019, like 5 months after we launched it. So since we launched, around 5 million web components have been built by all of our developers. And the open source version has 6,000 plus weekly downloads. So you download the package essentially means you want to create the LWC app. So that means every week, 6,000 people are creating an LWC app. Now, one more important aspect. So that was all about Lightning Web Components in the UI development frame. One more aspect in UI development is the actual design on top of it. So what it means is all the styling that you apply on top of your components. For that, we have built what is called the Lightning Design System. And we have built it with beauty and accessibility at its core. So you can see accessibility is something that we as a company value a lot. So the design system is built with accessibility into it. And of course, it looks beautiful. And this is also open source. You can contribute to that. Like I mentioned, in order for us to evolve, or you can contribute to us and we can evolve together. So download it from the Lightning Design System and you can use it anywhere, just like other CSS frameworks that you have like Bootstrap. Literally, this is a CSS file. You can download it as an NPM package, put it as a CSS file, use it anywhere there is a web page. You can feel free to use this. Now, what is our end goal is our long-term vision is to actually build an enterprise-ready UI platform that we call the Lightning Web Stack. And the web stack itself has many layers, out of which web components and design system are 2 layers that we've already built and open sourced. So in the coming few months, we are also going to complete the development of this complete enterprise-grade web stack, and we are going to open source it. So stay tuned for more details on when we are going to open source. Keep an eye out on our Twitter profiles or LinkedIn profiles, and we'll let you know whenever this entire web stack is open sourced. So, other than the components and design system, you can see the layers include security, tools, runtime, and a lot of fancy stuff that's happening. So finally, before wrapping up the app development part, I also want to talk a little bit about Fostiv. So you've seen the incredible technology that we have open sourced. And what we've done is we have used some of our technologies and built a collection of open source tools that we named Fostiv, which expands to free and open source tools for incredible virtual events. So since almost a year, or 6 months. All of us have been at home, and all of the in-person events like Open Source India, it would have been awesome to speak to you in person. But since we are doing it virtually, so are many other people. And these virtual events lack a certain flair that the in-person events have. So to bridge that gap, we have rolled out a set of tools, all of which are open source. And some of them are the Quiz app. So those of you who are familiar with Kahoot, it's a very similar open source version to that, where it is like the fastest finger first kind of a quiz, where you have multiple options, people play on their phones. And we've built it using Lightning Web Components, and it is deployed onto Salesforce and Heroku. So don't worry that it is deployed on Salesforce and Heroku. Both of them offer free editions. So we are using that. You can deploy there and use it. The next one is the emote widget, which is a standalone web component that you can place on any website that you want. And that shows you this widget. I'm going to give you a small demo of this widget. And finally, a GIF booth, kind of like a photo booth where all of you make some funny poses and then it captures the entire screen with all the participants. So it's deployed onto Heroku. Again, you can use a free edition, but we've built it with React.js. So you can access it, all of it online at github.com/Fostiv. And this is an incredible project built by the Salesforce Developer Relations team. That is the team that I and Shashank work with. Okay, so let's look at the emote widget in action. So this is the emote widget. Like I said, you can place it on any website that you want, and it's going to take the bottom right or bottom left corner, depending on how you configure it. Basically, this is for engagement. So whenever I'm speaking, you can say +1 claps, or you can do this so that you're engaged with the talk. So it's a pretty simple component. So this is the emote widget. And to look at the code behind emote widget, I said you can place it on any web page. So this is the HTML page on which I've pasted it. You can see it is standard HTML, but what it has here is just a script, which is main.js. And then here I have my emote widget. So I just place this one tag on my web page and the JavaScript file, and then it works the way I showed you. Now, what is interesting about emote widget tag is that it's a custom element. So custom element is one of the web standards that has come out that lets you create your own custom elements. So how you would define it? So in main.js, you have custom elements.define emote widget and some random code. Now, this custom elements.define is again standards, but how are we defining this web component? So what is the implementation for this web component is present in this whole JS file. Now, this is the built version of the file. That means we've used Webpack to bundle all of our components together and roll it out as a single JS file, which includes a Lightning runtime, which includes a whole lot of stuff. So let's not worry about this built version so much, but let's see how the web component emote widget looks during the development phase. So here in the SRC, you have something called as modules in the project structure, where you have the emote namespace inside which you have the widget component. So if you look at the bundle for the web component, it has a HTML file, JS file, SESs, all web standards. So looking at the widget.html, it's all web standards. So it starts with a template tag, again, a web standard. It has your div elements. You can embed other web components inside this web component. It has all of your standard buttons, on-click events. Everything that you have with HTML is present here. And then moving on to the JS file that is behind the web component. Again, we are using ECMAScript imports, ECMAScript classes. So it looks very familiar to the Oak Cliff code that we have seen because both of them use web standards. So again, you have your properties, a bunch of logic, which I'm not going to walk you through. But what is important is all your standard event handlers can be used, your functions can be used. And somewhere in here, you should also see server sent events. You can even subscribe to server sent events. So anything and everything that you can do with standard JavaScript can actually be done with web components also. So you define your HTML file, JS file, and during the build time, we take care of converting it to a web component and giving it a custom element tag and all of that fancy stuff. So at a very high level, this is what web components is about. This is what Fostiv is about. Now, if you need more details about Lightning Web Components, you can do two things. You can join us in our booth after the session is done, or you can attend the workshop tomorrow. So a pro tip for all of the organizations looking to contribute more to the enterprise. So you'll never know what open source project will be successful. So open source often, and that is what we have also done. Now, that's all we have in the keynote today. For more information about open source at Salesforce, feel free to go to the URL shown on the screen. Like I said, join us for our workshop tomorrow at 11 a.m. To build a snake game using Lightning Web Components. Join us at our booth if you have any questions.
Thank you
all for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of the conference.
Enjoy the rest of the conference, everybody. Thank you for joining, and have a nice day.